Welcome to Bryer's Music Showcase. I am Bryer and welcome back to another video. And in this one, I am talking about 1989. No, not that 1989. The year 1989. So in this one, I am concluding my 80s series where I go through every year throughout the 1980s and name my top 5 favorite albums, and I'm only limited to what I have in my collection currently. So 1989, a very solid year to go out on. I think by this point, a lot of the 80s tropes, shall we say, is starting to get a little tiring. I feel like not a lot of bands and artists were releasing some of their best material, but there's still some pretty good stuff. And so that's what I'm going to be showcasing here. But of course, there's going to be some I'm going to be leaving out. So if there are some albums that you don't see and you enjoy them, please let me know in the comments. I look forward to looking at them, of course. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get this over with. So let's start with number 5. So to start us off, we have a very famous American singer-songwriter and musician. We have Tom Petty with his first solo album, Full Moon Fever. Make sure I was showing it right. But here it is. Here's the back. There's Tom right there. So of course, Tom Petty got to start in the Heartbreakers, but by 1989, he wanted to go solo. But that being said, you still have a lot of the Heartbreakers still on this album, so take that for what you will. But yeah, this was pretty big, produced by Jeff Lynne, of course, and there's just some very iconic songs here like Free Falling, I Won't Back Down, and some of the other deep cuts on here are very good, like Love Is a Long Road, A Face in the Crowd. He does a pretty good rendition of Feel a Whole Lot Better, of course, from the Byrds, Depending on You, All Right for Now. Just a very, very good album. And what's funny is because I have the CD copy, and I've said this before, but on one of the tracks, you have Tom Petty kind of acknowledging that this is a CD. So that's kind of an interesting little tidbit. So if you get the CD copy, be prepared for a weird monologue by Tom. But yeah, album cover is pretty simple. You got Tom there with a little guitar there. It's a pretty decent cover. But let's go ahead. Let's look inside, like I've done with pretty much this whole series. I've been doing it. So here's the disc. Pretty nice discs there. And there's really not a whole lot to say on the booklet. It's just going to give you like the bare minimum. So here's the cover again. There's some nice pictures though. So you have some artwork right there. And of course it gives you the lyrics. This is a nice little shot here. And then you have a Native American on the last page. I have no idea why. So, yep. I don't have a whole lot to say, but you know, it's Tom Petty. He's a legend. It speaks for itself. So, that's number 5 for me. At number 4, to be honest, I originally had this album in my honorable mentions, but after some serious reconsideration, I just had to put this person in the list. So, coming back after what her last album was 1985, here she comes again with her next album, The Sensual World by Kate Bush. Yeah, like I said, I originally had this album in my honorable mentions because if you've seen my Kate Bush ranking, kind of a spoiler alert, I had this one quite low because it's not really the Kate Bush album I go for very often. But again, like I said, after reconsidering, I was like, you know, yeah, I still really enjoy this album. Even though it was kind of low on my list, I still very much enjoy it. Again, it's not quite as immediate as her last album, which was Hounds of Love, which I gushed over when I was in 1985. But this is still very solid. So it's not many songs. There's like I think 10 songs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 songs. You have the title track. Very nice. Pretty much sets the tone of the album. Then you have Love Anger, which is a great song, and I believe David Gilmour of Pink Floyd plays on that song, and I think he plays on another one. I can't remember, but you have The Fog's kind of nice. Heads We're Dancing's cool. Deeper Understanding, Between a Man and a Woman, and countless others. But of course, the big standout song is the final song, which is This Woman's Work, which is one of her great ballads. Just absolutely loved her vocals on that song. Just so beautiful, and it's great. So yeah, let's look at the packaging. So here's the album cover, kind of more simple, but very nice. And this is a little digipack, so you open it up, you have another quote, "Let the pendulum swing between a man and a woman." So, yep. And you open it, and you get another rose on this side, but here's the disc. And then there's a booklet in here, of course. Feels a little longer. Like, I feel like it's a little bit more rectangular than most booklets. And again, it's kind of like the ones before. I kind of wish they put more into the booklets. It's just basically giving you the lyrics and who played on what. So, yep. You get a little picture of Kate here. All right. So there you have it. The Sensual World by Kate Bush is my 4th favorite album of 1989. So for my number 3, here is a band that needs no introduction. Most of you know how much I love this band, and they finally have made the top 5. We have Queen with The Miracle. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Queen is my favorite band of all time, but yet now they finally made a top 5 in this series, because they've released other like albums in the 80s, but I think all of them were just honorable mentions. I might be wrong on that. I can't remember where The Works was. But yeah, it's kind of funny. And the reason why that is because, again, for me personally, the 70s is the cream of the crop when it comes to Queen. The 80s stuff is pretty good, but I don't know, there was just other things that I enjoyed more in the 80s. And, Queen has done some solid stuff. And so Queen finally made this list solely because comparatively, this is probably my more favorable albums of this year. And, for good reasons too. So yeah, you have many great songs on here. I will admit it doesn't really start on the greatest note, because you have Party and I can't pronounce the next song. But those two kind of blend into each other, and those aren't really my favorite Queen songs, in my opinion. But then it picks it back up with the title track. I think that's a very good underrated song. And the music video is kind of nice, because you have kids playing the bands, which is kind of cute, which is kind of nice. That's kind of cute. But then you have the 4th song, I Want It All, and I've talked about this before, but it's one of my favorite Queen songs ever. Just love the riff on that. Freddie's vocals, because by this point he was diagnosed with AIDS, but even here he's still giving it his all. He just really brings the grit into that one, and has one of my favorite Brian May guitar solos ever. So great song. Then you have The Invisible Man, another great song. Great bass line on that one too. Breakthrough is really good. Rain Must Fall, I think, is a pretty good underrated song. I kind of like the vibe on that one. Kind of a tropical thing, but I kind of like it. Scandal, great. I really enjoy Scandal. Just a song about the tabloids, because by that point the band was really starting to get more traction due to Freddie's illness, and I think Brian was also going through a divorce at the time. My Baby Does Me, again, not really the strongest song on here, kind of one of the more weaker ones. And then it closes out with Was It All Worth It, which was originally supposed to be Freddie's swan song. Like, was it all worth it? You know, because Freddie knew he had AIDS, so he kind of looked back on everything they've done up to that point, and they thought this was going to be the last one. But of course, Freddie would live on for another few more years, and then they came out with Innuendo, and that ended up, and The Show Must Go On ended up being Freddie's like swan song in a sense. But yeah, very good album, very strong, some good stuff, but you know, again, some not so great stuff. So let's look at the packaging. Again, it has the album cover. Many people have said this is the worst Queen album cover. I don't think it's the worst, but I can see why it is kind of unsettling. But you know, they were doing stuff, and honestly, the back cover I feel like is even worse because, like, if you have a fear of small holes, then look away. That's kind of unsettling. So open it up, and the disc has the same thing. All right, and then the booklet. Kind of a thick booklet. It's been a while since I looked through this one. So here's a picture of the band at the time. Then you have the lyrics. Not really a lot to show. Again, you think Queen, being a very visual band, will put more into these booklets at the time. I don't know when this particular booklet came out. Not this particular CD issue, I should say. I don't know if this is like an original CD from that time or whatever, but you think they put more in it. But then again, that was probably back when people really cared much of this CD booklet. So yep, number 3, The Miracle by Queen. At number 2, here's an album by a band where many people would say was probably not the greatest here, but to some, probably the most underappreciated. Here is Black Sabbath with their album, Headless Cross. So, this is during a time where Black Sabbath, you know, the only original member at this point was Tony Iommi, the guitar player, of course. And on lead vocals, you have Tony Martin. So, yeah, many people don't know a whole lot of this period because, again, it's not Ozzy, it's not even Dio. This is kind of like its own unique thing. And a lot of these albums were ignored because, again, for obvious reasons. But I have kind of, like, not too long ago, I wanted to kind of listen to this period. And I'm going to say, I'm very impressed. I feel like there's some very underrated material on this stuff. Some very underappreciated as well. And I think Tony Martin is a very good singer. Kind of has a Dio-esque vocal style, but not quite like him. He's kind of still unique in a sense. But still some good stuff. There's some great riffs on here, of course. Again, it's Tony Iommi, so of course you're going to expect some pretty good riffs. The Gates of Hell, you know, the title track is great. I really enjoy the title track. Devil and Daughter is really good. When Death Calls, that's a really good song and kind of a little continuation of the last entry because Brian May actually guests on that song. He does the little guitar solo on that song. So check out When Death Calls if you want to hear that one, especially when you hear Brian May shred a little bit. Kill in the Spirit World, Call of the Wild, Black Moon, and then it closes out with, I think it says Right Wing. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be, I'm not sure if that's correct, but yeah, Nightwing, not Right Wing. What am I on? We don't get political here. Anyhow, so yeah, I think this is a very underrated album. So if you have not listened to any Tony Martin stuff, I suggest check this album out. You might be surprised. So let's look inside. So there's the disc. And I remember it took me forever to find a CD copy because of course it's not really on Amazon. So Discogs was kind of my way to go. So let me just see who else was playing. I think Cozy Powell is also the drummer on here. Doesn't really tell you. Okay, never mind. Here it is. So here is the lineup. So, of course, guitars, you have Tony Iommi. Drums, you have Cozy Powell. Vocals, we have Tony Martin. Keyboards, you have Jeff Nichols. And then on bass, you have Lawrence Caudle. I hopefully I said that right. But yeah, that's the lineup. So this thing kind of folds out, just gives you the lyrics and stuff. So this side it gives you, so Gates of Hell is an instrumental piece, and then you have the lyrics to Headless Cross. Then you have the rest of the lyrics on this side. Right, pretty straightforward packaging. So that is my number 2. And like always, let's showcase some honorable mentions.
Give me love when love had gone away. All you folks that get on my life. When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. And the rain come down. Yeah, I won't. Can't you feel the love in this heart of mine?
And finally, my number 1 favorite album of 1989 goes to But Seriously by Phil Collins. Yep, Phil Collins has won this year. Again, I'm always a Phil Collins fan, so of course I'm gonna be a little bit biased. But yeah, to many people, I've heard some people say this is probably his last truly great album. Again, that's just their opinion. I think he's done some other good stuff, but regardless, just another really good album. This was his follow-up to No Jacket Required, and I think this is a very good album to follow it up with. You have 12 songs on here, and you know, it's a bit longer because again, this is the CD age, so yeah, the album's gonna be a little bit longer, but I think there's some great songs on here. Starts off great with Hanging Long Enough. Then you have That's Just the Way It Is, which actually you have David Crosby providing some backing vocals on that song. And if you listen carefully, you can definitely hear him. So very nice song. Really enjoy it. Do You Remember, kind of another ballad type song, which I'm a sucker for ballads. Then it picks it back up with Something Happens on the Way to Heaven. Just a great 80s pop number. Just one of my favorites from him. Colors is a pretty cool song because it kind of starts out slow, but then it slowly picks up, and then it gets into this kind of crescendos into this, like, again, another pop tune, which is kind of cool. Then you have another one of Phil's great power ballads with I Wish It Would Rain Down, just another one of those songs where Phil is just belting it out. Then you have another very good standout track with Another Day in Paradise about, you know, the homeless epidemic. Sorry. Another one of his standout tracks. Sights. Then the rest of the songs not quite as memorable, but still very good. With I can't read that handwriting. Can't read Phil's handwriting sometimes. Heat on the Street. All of My Life. Follow the Sun. Find a Way to My Heart. Yeah, just a great album. So there's the back. Let's look at the packaging. Very much in Phil's style. You know, he always has these handwritten notes here. All right, here's the information. It's kind of nice. There's some little behind the scenes photos of recording. And they do tell you who's playing on what. Of course, you have Daryl Sturmer, you know, on guitars, and you have Leonard Scalar on bass, and countless others like the Phoenix Horns. Nearly done here. Just a couple more pages. I think that's one of Phil's kids there. So there you have it. That is those are my top 5 favorite albums of 1989. And therefore, this is the end of this series. So hopefully you have enjoyed this series. Again, kind of a nice little retrospective of the 80s. Again, there are some people who aren't that big into the 80s, and for good reasons. There definitely is some cheesy stuff. And you know, some of that 80s production can get tiring at times. But for somebody who grew up listening to 80s stuff, you know, thanks to my mom, I definitely have that ear for it. So yeah, I always enjoyed 80s music. And hopefully I've introduced some people to new stuff that they might want to check out. And of course, you people who've been writing in the comment section some albums that I haven't heard yet, you've helped introduce me to albums that maybe I need to check out myself. So thank you again for watching this series. Again, I can't remember if I already said this already, but yeah, the series went on a little bit longer than it should have. But you know, hopefully you've had fun with this. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, then please give it a like, subscribe if you are new. Stay tuned because I'm going to be taking a break from doing these types of ranking videos. But when I come back, it's going to be the 70s next. And oh boy, that's going to be a doozy one to tackle. So look forward to that. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye for now.